Tsale, it's story time. This opera gives us Freemasonry and fantasy all wrapped up in a musical package as delectable as a German Friesentorte. Many of us have seen this viral clip of young opera singer Victory Brinker singing the wildly popular and vocally challenging bravura aria Der Hölle Rache. But why on earth is the singer popping out all of those high notes in quick succession? Is it just a beautiful scream? Or are there actually words in those sky high pitches? Who is the character behind that particular aria? And what's her backstory? All of these questions and more will be answered as we journey through the mystical world of Austrian composer Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart and librettist Emanuel Schikaneder. This is the last opera that Mozart wrote before his death in 1791. Das ist die Zauberflöte. This is the Magic Flute. There are quite a few characters in this masterpiece, but let's pay attention to these names: Tamino, Pamina, Zarastro, Monostatos, Papageno, Papagena, and the Queen of the Night. Now, let's get into the story. The opera begins with what looks like a very random scene. A handsome young prince named Tamino has gotten lost in a forest, and there's a big scary monster chasing him. Don't ask me how he got into the forest in the first place or why the monster is chasing him. All we know is that the man is running scared and the monster is hot on his heels. Eventually, Tamino is so petrified and exhausted that he passes out. While he lays there unconscious, oblivious to what's happening around him, three ladies appear. And yes, in the opera, they are actually called the Three Ladies. They might as well be called Charlie's Angels because they quickly assess the situation and spring into action. Let's just say the beast didn't stand a chance. They beat that thing like he stole something. Girl power on steroids. After they vanquish the beast, the three ladies take a closer look at Tamino and they realize how handsome he is. They then start squabbling amongst themselves about who should stay with him in his unconscious state. You see how fine guys can cause confusion even among BFFs, even when they're unconscious. Well, thankfully, sisterhood prevails, and the three ladies agree that they will all leave and go and report back to their boss. We'll find out who the boss is in just a moment. After the three ladies leave, a young man named Papageno enters that same area of the forest. He's going around minding his own business, singing to himself, playing on his pipes. He works as a bird catcher and he has a, should we say, unique sense of style to try and attract the birds. Papageno is a young single man and he's looking for something to spice up his life. Specifically, he's looking for a girlfriend who could eventually become his wife. But Charlie, with a bird catcher's income, a weird way of dressing, and really not much else to his name, his chances of finding a girlfriend are pretty slim. Ladies, be honest, would you date him? A bird catcher who dresses like a drunken peacock. Anyway, as he sings about trying to find his soulmate, he encounters Tamino and the dead beast. Tamino has woken up from his slumber, obviously unaware that the three ladies saved his life. So Papageno decides to take credit for slaying the beast, bragging to Tamino that it was an easy task for him. He didn't even need to use any weapons. His bare hands did the trick. Unfortunately for Papageno, as he's spinning this false tale of bravery, the three ladies reappear and hear him taking credit for their work. Yes, ladies, even in fairy tale operas written in the 18th century, men were taking credit for women's outstanding work. Naturally, the three ladies are ready to teach Papageno a lesson for stealing their thunder. They seal his mouth shut with a padlock to prevent him from telling more lies. So now he's a bird watcher with a padlocked mouth. How is this guy going to get a girl? Now the three ladies turn their attention back to Tamino. They actually have a task for him. They pull out a phone and show him the social media profiles of a hot girl called Pamina. Tamino grabs the phone and starts scrolling through Pamina's reels. And in true operatic fashion, he immediately falls in love with her, even though he's only seen her pictures and videos for like 2 seconds. The three ladies explain that Pamina has been kidnapped by a very powerful villain called Zarastro, and they want Tamino to rescue Pamina from Zarastro's evil clutches. It is a task that will require courage and determination. But I'm thinking, isn't this the guy who was running and screaming and fainting just a few minutes ago? and you're trusting him to go and face someone who is supposed to be the villain of all villains. Is there no other candidate for this job? As for Tamino, his eyes are stuck on one particularly stunning image of Pamina, so he can't even think straight. He agrees to be the knight in shining armor for the new love of his life. At that moment, the boss of the three ladies arrives on the scene, and it is none other than Boss Lady Supreme, Her Royal Majesty, the Queen of the Night. Boss Lady explains that Pamina is her daughter, and she promises Tamino that if he rescues Pamina from Zarastro, she will give Pamina to him as his reward. I mean, maybe it's just me, but if my daughter was rescued after being kidnapped and held hostage by my arch enemy, I'm not sure I would want her out of my sight for even 5 seconds, let alone to give her to a man that she doesn't even know simply because he rescued her. But the queen is an interesting character, as we will learn later. So the queen wishes Tamino all the best in his quest, and the three ladies remove the padlock from Papageno's lips and tell him to accompany Tamino as his sidekick. The ladies also give Tamino a magic flute to aid him in completing the task. They give Papageno a set of bells that will protect them as they proceed. The three ladies also tell the men that three boys will guide them along the way to Zarastro's temple so they won't get lost. Because, they can't use Google Maps for this. Maybe Zarastro has blocked all the navigation apps or something. So Prince Tamino carries the magic flute, and Papageno carries the bells of protection, and they set off on the rescue mission. Let's see what's happening at Zarastro's house, shall we? Pamina is indeed in Zarastro's palace, and she's being guarded by some of his servants. The head servant is called Monostatos. Monostatos is a very lecherous aggressor. He keeps trying to get close to Pamina, so he sends the other slaves out of the room so that he can be alone with Pamina. Thankfully, at that moment, Papageno enters. Now, remember that the Queen of the Night tasked Tamino to rescue Pamina and asked Papageno to accompany and assist him. So how is it that Papageno has arrived at Zarastro's palace ahead of Tamino and has found Pamina already? Anyway, he enters the room, and he and Monostatos are very confused and startled by each other because they each kind of look a bit strange. So they both run out of the room, leaving Pamina alone. But after a short while, Papageno returns and he explains to Pamina the whole mission and how Tamino is supposed to be her prince in shining armor and all of that. Now, Pamina is excited that she has this handsome prince who's obsessed with her and she's going to end up marrying this guy. I'm thinking, sis, have you forgotten you're a kidnapped victim? Shouldn't you guys be undoing her chains and getting out of there? But you're here celebrating the fact that you've got a secret admirer. As if that isn't crazy enough, Pamina now starts to give Papageno relationship advice on the things he can do to get a girlfriend. Finally, they remember that, oh, wait, we actually need to get out of here. So Papageno unchains her and they make their way out. Now, where is our hero, Tamino? The three young boys have guided Tamino safely to another part of Zarastro's temple. There are 3 entrances to this part of the temple. By the way, have we noticed the recurrence of the number 3 in this opera? 3 ladies, 3 boys, 3 entrances to the temple. Apparently, the number 3 is a number of great significance to the Freemasons, and it is said that there's a lot of Masonic symbolism in this opera. So, back to the 3 entrances. Tamino tries to enter on the right. He's rejected. On the left, he's rejected. Finally, he goes to the middle entrance, and there's a very polite priest who welcomes him warmly. Now, this priest says to Tamino, Prince Tamino, I know that you've been told a lot of horrible things about Zarastro, but I'm here to tell you that all of those things are false. Tamino is like, what? The priest is like, yeah, Zarastro isn't the evil villain that you think he is. In fact, he's a very kind and understanding leader. And here's the shocker. The true villain is that witch who sent you here, the Queen of the Night. When I tell you that Tamino is confusion.com upon hearing this, he's like, what is going on? Are you sure? The priest assures Tamino that Pamina is alive and unharmed and well taken care of. And as long as Tamino comes in peace, he will face no problems at Casa del Zarastro. So Tamino decides to play the magic flute to hopefully attract Pamina and Papageno. And guess what? It works. Papageno hears the flute and answers with his own birdwatcher pipes. So while Pamina and Papageno are trying to make their way to Tamino, Monostatos, the head servant, captures Pamina and Papageno again, and there's all kinds of confusion. But then Papageno is able to confuse Monostatos by ringing the bells of protection. Like the bells play some kind of enchanted music, so it causes Monostatos and his henchmen to basically dance away in a trance. Suddenly, Zarastro enters the grounds like some celebrity mogul. He's got his entourage, the music is thumping, people are giving him fans. Pamina is really afraid of the whole situation. So as soon as she sees Zarastro, she goes right to him and she starts pleading with him to forgive her for trying to escape. And she explains that she was trying to run away because Monostatos was trying to attack her. Zarastro is like, oh, my dear girl, don't worry. I understand. I will deal with Monostatos myself. But I can't let you free just yet, even though I wish for your happiness. Well, then, if you wish for her happiness, Zarastro, why won't you release her? Zarastro says, in good conscience, I cannot release you to that mother of yours, the so-called Queen of the Night. She's a wolf in sheep's clothing. She's not who you think she is. She's a stubborn woman. She's a difficult woman. She's a terrible example for a nice girl like you. In fact, you deserve a better mother. Now, is it just me, or does it sound like there's some history or some unfinished business between the Queen of the Night and Zarastro? Animosity runs deep. There must be something there. As you can imagine, this is a lot for Pamina to digest. Then Zarastro says, the only way I'll release you is if I'm comfortable and confident that you have a man to guide you. Yo, it's the patriarchy for me. Now back to Tamino. Honestly, I don't even understand why he's the hero in this story if he keeps fainting and getting captured and all these things. Anyway, Monostatos has brought Tamino to where Pamina, Zarastro, and everybody is gathered. And this is the first time Pamina and Tamino are seeing each other. So they run to embrace each other. Remember, Pamina went to report Monostatos to Zarastro. So Zarastro actually punishes Monostatos instead of rewarding him. So Monostatos is not happy at all. At this point, Zarastro is encouraging Tamino and Pamina to get married. But the elders of the temple, even though they agree, say that they actually want something even more. They want Tamino to be Zarastro's successor of the Grand Temple. But before that can happen, he has to undergo some rituals. Basically, Tamino and his sidekick Papageno have to undergo something called a trial of silence. Basically, they're not allowed to talk to anybody. That's it too. They've made it sound like some grand thing. They just can't talk to anybody. Tamino is actually excellent at this task. I mean, people are coming in and out trying to make him talk. Even the three ladies showed up and tried to tempt him to talk. Papageno, on the other hand, becomes Mr. Chatterbox, and he's talking to everybody. But you see, Tamino is motivated by Pamina's pretty face. Papageno is gnashing. He doesn't have a girlfriend, so there's nothing to motivate him to stay quiet. As the silence challenge is going on, Pamina is resting in a room, and Monostatos sneaks in and again tries to have his way with her. But he hears someone approaching the room and he hides. The person approaching the room is the Queen of the Night. She has come to find her daughter. Pamina informs her mother that she and Tamino are indeed going to get married and they're going to join Zarastro's temple family. Queen is like, oh, heck no, that man, never, not on my watch. Now, let's get a little backstory here. The Queen of the Night now tells Pamina that her late husband, that's Pamina's father, was actually the owner of this temple. But just before he died, he quickly transferred the ownership to Zarastro, which left the Queen of the Night dejected, powerless, and very, very bitter. The queen now wants Pamina to kill Zarastro so she can reclaim the temple as its rightful owner. She even gives Pamina a dagger to accomplish this task. Then, to top it all off, she pulls out the mum guilt. Oh, if you truly loved me as a daughter, you would do this for me. Or else, I shall disown you. Now we know why she sounds so agitated in her aria, Der Helle Rache. And yes, this is the point in the opera where the Queen of the Night sings that aria. We get it now. We understand, Queen. So after singing lots of stratospheric notes and threatening her daughter, the queen makes her dramatic exit. Remember, Monostatos had been hiding in the room, so he heard all of this, and now he's trying to blackmail Pamina. But Perfect timing, Zarastro enters at that moment and he stops Monostatos in his tracks. Zarastro knows what's up. Pamina begs Zarastro to forgive her mother, but Zarastro tells her not to worry. He's like, my dear girl, I'm not going to seek revenge against your mother now, so you don't worry. Everything will be fine. In the meantime, Tamino and Papageno are still going through this silence ritual thing. And yes, Papageno is still the one who's talking to people when he shouldn't be. As they're in the ritual room, they're approached by an old woman who brings some water into the room. Now, this old woman is chatting with Papageno and she claims that she's 18 years old. She clearly looks much older than that. Papageno thinks, this woman, is she senile or what? She looks like she's 80 and she's telling us she's 18. And Papageno finds her entertaining and engaging, and as they're conversing, he asks her if she has a boyfriend. The old woman responds, yes, I have a boyfriend, and his name is Papageno. Papageno is like, how does she know my name? And before he could even ask her name, the woman disappeared. There are a lot of strange things happening in this temple, I tell you. The three boys enter the room and they are bringing some snacks to Tamino and Papageno. And they also bring the magic flute and the magic bells and Papageno's pipes. So Tamino, since he can't talk, decides to play some music on the flute. And Pamina hears it from a distance and comes rushing to the room to see her beloved. But remember, Tamino can't talk to her because he has to pass this ritual. So as Pamina is trying to talk to him and he's ignoring her, Pamina gets upset because she thinks he doesn't love me anymore. Tamino can't explain to her why he can't talk to her. He's bound by the silence ritual. Pamina runs off in tears because she thinks, she's lost her love. The priests are really impressed with Tamino's commitment, so they release him finally from the challenge and they declare that he has passed the test. Papageno, however, is still dissatisfied with being single, and as he's moaning and complaining about not having a girlfriend, the old woman appears again. This time, she tells him that if he really wants his freedom, he has to agree to marry her. Papageno, he's in a tight situation, so he reluctantly agrees. And as soon as he agrees to marry her, the old woman transforms into a beautiful young girl called Papagena. Meanwhile, just as we thought Tamino was free and he could go ahead and marry Pamina, the priests still want to challenge him again. At this point, Pamina has had enough of this and she's like, look, whatever ritual you want him to do, I'm doing it with him this time. I'm sticking with my man. That's a ride or die woman right there. So with the help of the magic flute, Pamina and Tamino are able to conquer all of the remaining challenges. Finally, the priests are satisfied. They welcome Pamina and Tamino into the temple to celebrate their love. But just when we think everything is fine, Tamino and Pamina are together, Papageno has found his Papagena, Boss Lady Queen of the Night shows up with her 3 ladies, and now Monostatos has joined their crew. Queen of the Night has promised Monostatos that if he helps her destroy Zarastro's temple, she will give Pamina to him. What is wrong with this woman? Promising her daughter to everyone, giving her daughter away like depreciated currency. Well, unfortunately for the Queen of the Night and her posse, and fortunately for everyone else in the opera, a strong force from the skies annihilates them and tosses them into eternal darkness. Good riddance. Swa. Then finally, Zarastro oversees the wedding of Tamino and Pamina and inducts them into his temple family. And the joyous celebration echoes throughout the forest. Now, the next time you hear the Queen of the Night's aria, Der Hölle Rache, and all those high notes, remember the synopsis and remember that the character singing it is crazy! And that is Mozart's Magic Flute. Cheers!